let's look at today's topic, which is projectile motion. Now, one of my students asked me to do a calculation, and the question is based on time of flight. So now, how can we do? And now let me put the question on the board, and so that everybody can see it. The question is, an object is thrown into the air with an initial velocity 20 meters per second at an angle of 30 degrees to the horizontal. Calculate the time of flight. Take G to be what? 10 meters per second square. Now, this WAEC question. Now, for those of you that want to write NECO GC, NATEL, you can come across this question. And the formula to be used is T is equals to 2U sine theta over what? G. How can we use this formula? How do we arrive at this formula? But my students say I should try and what? How this formula is being arrived. Remember, we have three formulas under this projectile motion. We have the maximum height, the range, the time of flight. So that in the exam hall, if a question is being asked in relation to projectile motion, you can apply the formula and solve it vividly and solve it confidently. Now, how this formula is arrived. Now, let's look at it. How is being arrived. Remember that a projectile motion refers to the motion of an object thrown into the air and moving under the influence of gravity alone. That is projectile. A very good example is a discus throwing a shot put, a bullet shot into the atmosphere. Are you getting me now? Now, let's check the assumptions of the above definition. That what are the assumptions on this definition? Now, you have to agree with me that the trajectory part of a projectile motion is always what? A parabolic form. It's always in parabolic part. Now, the first assumption that we can see here now, this is a vertical component, don't forget. This is the what? Horizontal component. Now that when the object is a vertical component, we have this one to be what? U sine theta. Then the horizontal component will be what? U cos theta. Are you getting me now? Now, this is the origin. Now, the first assumption is that the object projected is at an angle theta with initial velocity u. Now, the second thing is that the acceleration g, that is acceleration due to gravity g, acted vertically downwards, which is called what? Free fall, which is always what? 9.8 meters per second square. That is the free fall. Now, the third one is that the vertical component and the horizontal component are independent to each other. Now, the last but not the least is that air resistance is neglected. Air resistance is neglected. Now, you have to recall the displacement of a linear object, that is an object moving with a constant acceleration, is what? Ut plus half at squared. This is the formula for a displacement of an object, that is an object moving in a specific direction. Now, in relation to projectile motion, how can we arrive at t is equals to 2u sin theta over g? Now, you have to agree with me. Remember that the vertical component, that is when the object is displaced, they remain in the air, which is the maximum point, then start coming back to the where it was launched. Now let's say we have S is equals to U sine theta times T minus half GT squared. Did you see that now? Now let's move on. Now we now have Y is equals to U sine theta times T minus half GT squared. Now let's put Y to be 0. So now U sine theta minus half GT squared is equals to 0. Now it becomes a what? A quadratic equation. Now you can factorize this. Now how do you factorize? Since T is common to them, you bring T out, U sine theta minus half GT is equals to 0. So either T is equals to 0 or U sine theta minus half GT is equals to 0. Now let's move on. Let's write. Now we say either U sine theta minus half GT is equals to 0. Is that not? So now this expression can also be written as U sine theta minus GT over 2 is equals to 0. So since this can be transferred, so you can have U sine theta is equals to GT over 2. Then you cross multiply. So GT is equals to 2U sine theta. Then divide both sides by G to get T. So therefore, time of flight will be 2U sine theta over G. So in the next video, we shall now use this formula to solve the question.